Hi, everyone. Welcome to live stream with me, Dr. Aparajita Jeedigunta. I am the founder and CEO of AJ Rao LLC and the creator of the upcoming C3EB Summit for Equity and Belongingness from August 26th through the 28th. And today, this interview is so special because this is somebody who is who we're going to talk to today is Zanzibar Vermiglio. Did I say that right?
It's damn close.
All right. We're going to learn the proper way to say this as well. But he's somebody that I met in the course of the summit, and he's one of the keynote speakers for the summit. And at this point, and he's one of the most insightful people I've ever met in my life, to where I feel like I have known him forever. We've had so many conversations, and believe it or not, this is the first time he and I are actually ever talking on video. This is the first time I'm actually seeing him, but I've seen so many of his other videos and everything. I feel like I've known him for my whole life. So without further ado, it is my absolute honor and pleasure to welcome Zanzibar to this live stream. Hi, Zanzibar.
Hi. Great to be here.
Yes. So before I read your bio, how do you say your name?
Last name, half of my family says what you said, Vermiglio.
Uh-huh.
Half of my family says Vermiglio, which is the Italian pronunciation where the G does not get pronounced. Either is accurate.
Okay. All right. Got it. So I'm going to, so I just want to read your bio, and this is in first person. So those are always fun. I love reading those. So this is Zanzibar's bio in his own words. I skipped college and helped to create a technology company before starting a career training and developing people. After leading programs for over 20,000 people, I launched a business consulting practice, which has doubled the size of 103 businesses. My mission in life is to unleash inner magnificence in people. I use business as an access to service that mission. My company reverse engineers business results, and we do not miss. It turns out higher conscious solutions in business are always 5 to 10 times more effective than traditional approaches. Everything in business is an act of creativity, and there are always multiple ways to accomplish a vision. At the heart of it all is unleashing the inner magnificence of people. Wow. There were so many parts of that I got goosebumps on. I just have, my goosebumps have goosebumps. So you skipped college and you helped to start a technology company, and then you went into people development, and then you developed 20,000 people before you actually set up a business to help develop people some more.
Yeah.
What drives you to do that?
This is an interesting, cute little story. When I was a kid, I was much more, self-absorbed. I don't know, when you're a kid, you're self-absorbed in that, whatever. And I was already an effective kind of person. It didn't take me much work to get great grades, and I was always really good at the things that I participated in. I was very social. People liked me. I wasn't, life was going great. And then I was the drum major of the high school band when I was a sophomore in my high school. And I went to camp. They sent me, the school paid a bunch of money for me to go to drum major camp. And it started to dawn on me when I was at drum major camp that maybe my life wasn't for me. And I had a teacher, I don't even remember her name. She was probably just a college student, although at the time she seemed so old. And she was wonderful, and she was kind of a mentor to me at the time. And I remember what it was like to turn myself over to that there's something that's greater than me to make happen in the world around me, whether that's the other kids at drum major camp, or whether that's the kids in my high school band or my cross country team, or I ended up being the president of my youth group. And I found that the more that I gave myself away, the more I found myself. That was the beginning of a life of service, and what it meant to give myself to intentions, concerns, purposes that are larger than myself, and try to be used by something that truly matters but it was way back when I was, I don't know what that is, 14 years old at drum major camp, and trying to learn how to conduct, and how weird that was, and how awkward you feel when you're a teenager. And well, maybe my attention doesn't have to be on myself and fitting in or looking good or anything. Maybe my attention could be on helping these people. And that's when it first dawned on me. And my life evolved in a different direction ever since that moment.
Wow. So so the part about that really fascinates me, given that I'm a social personality psychologist, is right around that age of 14, 15 and whatever, that's when we're completely centered in our ego, because our personalities are forming, and like, you know, the idea of permanent personalities and everything. So
I remember.
Right. But then for you to have that shift, which you and I now get paid to help like 30, 40, 50-year-old people have that shift.
Yeah.
To naturally have it at an age where we're supposed to be completely focused on the self and focused on our, you know, the storm and hail of teenagehood and all of that. Can you tell us more about that? Like, that is actually fascinating.
Which part do you, which part should I talk more about?
All of it, but really, like, what do you remember was it like to step from that complete ego to that selfless? And how were you able to navigate that?
I'll even give examples more recent, because I think that it's that it's a life. It wasn't like some kind of flip of switch and all of a sudden I've transcended ego. I'm never going to transcend ego, and it gets in the way still whenever it does. But something that does chew up and spit out anywhere where ego can get, and ego can even be a useful construct for the expression of self and how to move purpose. It's not like it needs to be in the way, I found. But the thing that can always move it out of the way is when somebody has their attention on what truly matters. And what moves me the most is when people, it doesn't even have to be me. I don't have to be the one causing it. If I, even watching the movie Erin Brockovich and watching Erin do her thing, as you know, Julia Roberts portrays it in the movie. I love that what matters gets to be championed in the world and somebody's paying attention to it. It makes my heart sing just as much to watch it on television as it does for me to be involved in it. But when people have their attention on something that really, truly matters, then it not only creates this sense of magnetism or unifies the environment around them, where I've seen if one person is truly on purpose in a group of 1,000 people, that one person's voice always wins. Human beings are naturally attracted to the thing that matters. Human beings are not unifyingly attracted to what doesn't matter. They're across the board, people are attracted to what does matter. And that's a statement about like the underlying nature of the human spirit. So when I remember even in drum major camp, or I became a camp counselor, or in my youth group, there were for sure thousands, more moments than not early on where I was given by ego and like wanting to prove myself or demonstrate or be cool or look good. And I remember like over and over and over, like fulfilling that moment of getting to look really great at the dance, or getting to this or getting to that, or getting the award and then having that moment of like adulation. The ego gets what it wants. And I'm sitting there holding the trophy thinking, well, now what? There's like, there's so much pursuit. And then right at the end of getting the trophy, there's like this emptiness of, did that really matter? But I wouldn't have said it that way at the time. There's just the sense of, okay, well, now what am I going to go chase? And like this emptiness of the chase and chase and chase and chase and chase. Jim Carrey did this really great thing at an award ceremony. I don't know if you've seen it, AJ.
Which one?
He was at an award ceremony. He was talking about being a Golden Globe winner. And he said something like, they introduced him as two-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey. And he says, that's right, I'm two-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey. And when I go to bed at night, I'm not just any ordinary person going to bed at night. I'm two-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey going to bed at night. And then he says, and when I dream, I don't dream just any dream. I dream about being 3-time Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey, because then I will actually be enough. And he does this whole thing about, before he hands out the award, gives somebody the award, that completely demeans the whole award system, because it's all filed in ego and there's nothing really that valuable about it. But we're going to now give this award to somebody. It was the most funny, profound, and authentic thing I've ever seen happen at an award show. And that's how I was. I was kind of that way. It makes me laugh about myself when I was younger, because I'd get there and I'd win, or I'd win the cross country meet, or I'd win the thing for the track team. And now what? There's a lot of emptiness in the winning of life. And until I started to put 2 and 2 together about this experience at drum major camp and what it was like to let myself disappear into something that really matters. Like, let's train these kids how to sail. Let's see if we can find something about these children that are here that's their truth, and see if I can dance in their truth for a minute and get to know them. And the more I disappeared into something that really mattered, the more I seemed to show up. That paradox is very bizarre. And I more and more in life got to live my life inside of that paradox, trying to be governed by things that truly matter. And it turns out most of what truly matters isn't here with us. It's out here in the world. And when somebody has their attention on something that matters that's outside of themselves, they shine with a light that is much more brilliant than the light that comes from a self-concern.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think you can see my goosebumps at this point. They're getting very, very visible. But everything you said just resonates so much with me, including, Jim Carrey. And he is one of the few voices that I always consider authentic in terms of the messaging he puts out. He truly does not give a crap. He's going to say what's on his mind and what he feels. But in terms of that, losing yourself in that purpose and all of that, as you know, and as some of my listeners know, that was my experience, but I had to go through death to get to that.
Right.
So it is so profound, to use your earlier words too, but it is so profound and so grounding to hear that you don't have to go through something that traumatic to realize that you can fulfill your purpose, and that as you fulfill your purpose more and more, as you lean into that more and more, you show up more.
Yeah.
Which, now it takes me back to that very, very first conversation that you and I ever had when we were introduced and said, okay, let's jump on this call. And it was supposed to be, I think, a 15-minute conversation, and ended up being like a 45-minute conversation, that very first one. Right. And at the end of it, I had told you everything that I'm trying to build with the summit and what I was hoping to do with it. And then I asked you if you would do me the honor of being a speaker, and you said yes. And I have never asked you why you said yes. So I'm going to ask you now, what is your big why for agreeing to be a keynote speaker at the C3EB Summit?
Well, the nature of what is happening around the country and maybe the world, I don't know, because I don't plug into all of the faucets that you need to plug into to speak on that. But the nature of what's happening around social media and the public mood and the overall social moray that's happening in the country is one of extreme divisiveness. And one of the things that terrifies me a little bit about that is if it keeps going in that direction, attitude. I believe that overriding social mores lead to policy initiatives and lead to rights and wrongs becoming bigger social mores and things like that. And I've watched for the most part in my life that human consciousness has glacially moved toward higher consciousness consistently. And I can watch throughout time. I'm something of a history buff. So I watch throughout time as human consciousness just very slowly can move toward higher consciousness over the course of time. And I wonder if we're taking our first step backward in a few thousand years or something in the way that social moray is pushing just the nature of consciousness itself. So when you talked to me about your summit, I was like, oh, somebody's doing that? That's amazing. That seems incredible. Why didn't I think of that? Why haven't 1,000 people thought of that? Why isn't everybody doing that? We should all be doing that. So when you talked to me about it, I was immediately struck by the need to move just the social moray back in the right direction, to move human consciousness in the right direction. There's so much of angry name calling and choosing sides and no room for people and no room for anybody without my point of view. People tell me every week about how they're unfriending somebody because I can't be friends with somebody who thinks blah, blah, blah. I'm like, wow, okay. Do you know that that's maybe half of your friends? I don't know. Like how do people not have room for each other? How did it get to be that there's no space for people to be wherever they're at? And there's no space for thought and thinking. And to argue with somebody is thought of as evil. Why? How is argument evil? We get to debate and share ideas and figure out what's true and more accurately depict what's in my heart and spirit by talking about it with somebody that I believe to be intelligent. Why? Where did that go? That's not that long ago that was okay. And now it's not okay anymore. I've put up a meme. Go ahead and choose sides. And anybody that doesn't choose that side is horrible and needs to be burned as a witch. How did that happen in such a short period of time? It's like a mere 6 years.
Yeah.
So I immediately resonated with your vision because I've been thinking about the problem, but I haven't been taxing myself to come up with a solution. And that you taxed yourself to come up with a solution to the problem just elated me. I was like, oh my goodness, somebody's come up with a solution to this problem. Maybe we can move the social moray in a positive direction. And I'm a big believer, like I said, that if there's 1,000 people in a room and one person dares to speak something that matters and what really matters to that group, that person's voice will end up winning. I do believe that is the way that is. With human consciousness will move in the direction of what matters if it shows up. And then here's a summit that's about having it show up.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And, it's interesting you brought up that, why didn't I think of it? Why aren't 1,000 people doing this? Because, so this was a pipe dream of mine for almost 2 years. And, in various different forms, I think I've dreamt it into existence in a million different ways with a million different contingencies. Pre-COVID was all about a live in-person summit. And then I'm like, well, no, I want to make it more accessible to other people. So then there was a hybrid and then COVID happened. And I'm like, oh, well, what does that mean? All of that. And through that entire time, that was a question I was constantly asking myself too, is, why am I the only one doing this? At this point, there is no original thought that we're past that. So what? This is, and then people started saying I've never seen anything like this. I've never heard anything like this. And I'm like, okay, I'm either doing something totally new and awesome, or I'm about to fall so flat on my face. But either way, it's going to be fun. So we're going to go ahead.
Yeah. And is society at large ready for a greater message than choose sides for what's right and what's wrong? Are they ready for Rumi, out beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing? There's a field. I'll meet you there. Are people ready for really what it takes to cause unity, celebrate differences, culture, and empower all voices in a room, in a business community? Are people really ready? I think so. I think that there's a lot of people, even a lot of the people that are participating in the discussion from a negative conscious perspective are ready, searching for, and willing to be washed over with something that's just way moving the soul forward. I think people are ready.
Yeah, I think so too. Which is why even though some people were like, postpone this so you can get better sponsorships and better this and better that, I said, no, this has to happen now. This is the right time for this, because we have to be able to kind of get in and under that consciousness to help elevate it and to uplift all of us together as a collective, not as individually divisive or divisioned voices.
Yeah.
That definitely resonates with me. And I know you and I have had many conversations about what you talk about, higher consciousness, but as we're having this conversation, I'm realizing some of our listeners and viewers may not quite know, because this is their first introduction to you. So do you mind telling me, us a little bit about this higher consciousness? And you use the idea of this higher consciousness a lot in almost all of your programming, right?
Yeah, I use it a lot with myself. I use it a lot with what has me create the things that I create in business. So as a business architecture, that business architecture needs to sing with the right kind of voice. It can't just be command and conquer, or command and control. It can't just be friends with everybody. It can't. There's a way to create a management architecture that guarantees performance, fulfills mission fidelity, and yet also gives rise to the development of people, the development of maybe even soul, and like that. There's a way to guarantee the success of sales teams that isn't necessarily just from, okay, let's crunch the numbers, get the right number of people on the phone and produce the number that we need to produce and hit the revenue mark. There's a way to generate a value proposition that isn't just about, well, what does the marketing and branding team think we need to do? No, let's look at this with a sound mind and just think about what's wanted and needed in this industry. How do we set ourselves apart from what's missing and what can be created? And there's a lot of different ways to do anything that you want to do in business. Everything's up for grabs as an act of creativity, but it's important to me that it come from what I would consider higher consciousness. So if you're asking me what is higher consciousness, it's paying attention to what truly matters from all of the perspectives. That's the short way to say it. If you wanted to look on a scale, obviously love would be considered higher conscious and hate would be lower conscious. But there's all kinds of tones in there and everything. So let's say that a company is geared toward people being very dutiful. Dutiful sounds great. At least people are doing things and they're doing it in a committed way. And they're in some way, shape, or form marching to the tune of what everybody else is marching to. So there's some sense of alignment and duty seems good. But what about true collaboration, partnership, or inspiration? What if we can find a way to get inspired action out of people rather than dutiful action? And inspired action carries with it the weight of way more quality of effect in the world than a dutiful action. How do you cause that to happen? Now we're talking about true leadership. So higher consciousness it's a little bit of an abstraction, but it's not completely abstract. There really is. Love is higher conscious than hate. But then how do you cause what's the profound next thing to shift in a culture to move where it needs to go, and then put in a structure to empower everybody to win? More of an art form than an exact science, and you have to interact with what's there. You can't just do that like, I have a template, everybody do my template, and then your business will be amazing, and I'll make $1 million because I came up with a template for business success. I don't believe in that. I don't think that that's right. I don't think that every business, you need to start with the gifts and talents at hand and the way the culture currently is and move it consistent with the way that culture needs to be moved. Otherwise, you're just spouting platitudes on a wall and not paying attention to what really does matter. So anyway, higher consciousness has a lot to do with paying attention to what is the evolution of what's next and how to do that in the most profound way possible.
Absolutely. And the reason that's always resonated with me is because, I'm the one for me, it's always been about making the invisible visible for better belongingness. And also that, inclusion is not a zero-sum game. Equity and belongingness are not zero-sum games. And so one of the things that really, on a very deep level, connects me to your message or empowers me to connect to your message is that this idea of higher consciousness, really the way I apply it is about, it's about listening to the needs of the other people where they are, and then coming up with creative solutions to how you meet them at where their needs are, but you still get the organizational needs met. You still get your needs met. And it's sort of, for me, about bridging that bottom up and top down trickle, and really creating this like stable, I'm not going to say level because that's problematic, but a stable playing field that people can at least come to play their own sports. They don't have to play the same games.
Yeah.
And that's what's always been fascinating to me about your higher consciousness. And I know for your keynote, you're going to be specifically focusing on sort of taking that higher consciousness and applying it to craft, as you say, exquisite purpose in leadership and management. So what is exquisite purpose? Let's start with that.
This one's
without giving, I just want teasers, by the way.
No, I don't mind. I'll give you as much as I can. There's no harm in giving away everything that you can.
It's always been that way.
Just let it rip. There's an easy way to think about this when you think about leadership and management coming together to form this harmony of guaranteeing beautiful, brilliant, and exquisite results. There's this old parable. I don't know who started it, but there's this parable. I don't know if we've ever talked about it, but there's the difference between, there's this jogger on the road back in like, I don't know, it was like 1800 or something, or 1600, it was hundreds of years ago, like 1400 or 1500. And do you know this parable of the jogger and finding guys on the side of the road working?
Okay.
And so he's like running and he's just, doing whatever he's doing. And he comes across a guy that's, he's got like this cart and he's on the side of a cliff and he's using a pry bar to hew stones out of the side of the cliff. And he comes upon him and the man's face looked weathered and he was downtrodden and he looked tired and he was weary from his work and from his efforts. And he was a man maybe in his mid 30s, but he looked much older, like maybe 50 or so. And he said, if you don't mind, can I ask what it is that you're doing there? And the guy looked at him and he said, I'm hewing stones out of the side of this cliff. And he said, well, why are you doing that? He said, I'm paid to do that. This is what I need to do to provide for my family. He said, oh, okay. And he kept going, and by and by he happens on another guy. And the next guy says, same thing, weathered guy. This guy's maybe in his 40s, but he looks like he's like 60 or so. And he says, if you don't mind my asking, what are you doing? He goes, I'm hewing stones out of the side of the cliff. And he says, well, why are you doing that? He says, well, this was the only work I could get to survive. He says, oh, okay. And then he comes upon a third guy down the way, and the third guy is in his 60s, but he looks like he's 35. And he's got this energy about him, and he's got like an energetic aura, and he's whistling as he's doing the same thing. And he comes upon him and he says, hey, do you mind my asking what you're doing? And the guy turns around and he looks at him with this smile on his face and he goes, I'm building a cathedral.
Oh.
And he goes, and why are you doing that? He says, because this is going to make a difference for generations to come as a meeting and gathering place of ideas and religion and thought and philosophy. And I'm going to make that happen for everybody. And then he keeps running and he's struck by the difference in the quality of effect and the quality of life and the quality of what's present. Three guys doing the exact same thing. In my view, if you're going to be in charge of people, you're kind of given a job to see if you can get it to be like that third guy for everyone. So unifying spirit, unifying purpose, are we up to something that truly matters? If the company is about making money, they've already missed the point of being in business. there's a reason to be in business, and it's to create an exquisite value in a marketplace. If it's done well, a byproduct of which is that there's money. Ask Apple how it went when they took their attention off of creating exquisite value and what it was like after they fired Steve Jobs. I'm not saying that Steve Jobs was a great leader, but he made sure that they cared about what mattered in the marketplace. He's an example for that, for sure. So if leadership can cause people, Colin Powell is my definition of leadership. Colin Powell says that leadership is the art of accomplishing more than the science of management says is possible. If you can get everybody to be like that third guy, you're getting 10 times more value out of the people that are there. And the first step is by uniting them under common purpose. If we're really up to something that truly matters in the marketplace, turning the industry on its ear and causing something to happen that's never happened before, then people can sink their teeth into that their job truly matters rather than punching a card. Every manager who has any amount of people working for them, it's kind of on them to make sure that that's the name of the game, not as a platitude or a statement on a wall that nobody cares about, but really, this is what we're doing today and finding a way to work that into what they're doing. The other way, when you talked about up and down and the verticals of managing people, the other way that you can get to be a magnificent leader, other than just making sure that the context is right, the other way is in having there be that each of the people underneath you is what truly matters. Now, I know that what truly matters is the purpose or vision, if we have an exquisite one anyway. If we've taken the time to create one that truly matters, that's what really matters, except the people are what matter. And there's this paradox between the people are what matter, but the purpose that we've generated is what really matters. And that paradox being played out is what gives rise to a brilliant leader. If I can get that person to know that their future is what really matters to me, but what really matters to us is this purpose. Therein lies inspired action. 100%, almost 100% of the actions your people are going to be taking could be inspired actions because they get nurtured for what's next for them, the same that the company gets nurtured and the industry gets nurtured inside of our purpose.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm going to take that snippet of the recording and send it to those people that we were talking about offline, because I feel like, there are a few people who need to hear this without me having to name names online, because I can't. But no, I truly, thank you. And it's so obvious that you're so knowledgeable about it, but you're also passionate about it in a very inspired and purpose-driven way.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful example, I think, for me, but also for any of our listeners, of when it's not just about passion. It's not. That when that passion leads to purpose, that leads to this inspired, purpose-driven action that you're talking about, that aligns an individual's goals with common shared purpose, that is where, well, to be cliched, magic happens.
Yeah, it really is. Unpredictable and unprecedented things happen when people put their attention on those things and let those use their behavior rather than as a strategy to manipulate people into getting what I want out of them. No, like really actually care about the things that matter and speak from and let yourself act from what truly matters. And then unpredictable, unprecedented things happen. It's a recipe for dramatic success in business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, as we start wrapping up this conversation, which I feel like could go on forever, but we're gonna be very cognizant of your time and all of our listeners' times and all of that. What is the one tip, free tip, which I know all of your stuff, like, y'all, I'm not joking, Zanzibar. I'm just gonna have to come clean and say this. The very first time I met this enlightened soul, he goes, "Yeah, sure. Look at everything I got. Take whatever you need and use it however you want." Because if anything I do helps you, then that's all that matters to me. And I was just like, oh my gosh, how is it possible that everybody else tells me about these templates, about these protections, about these things I have to be aware of, and like these vultures and sharks I have to like watch out for, and then I meet you and you're like, I'm an open book, take what you want. And it was one of the most refreshing and inspiring interactions I've ever had. And as you can tell, based on how you've seen the summit grow, it completely shaped my view of it. So thank you for that, first of all. But what is one thing that you can tell people even before the summit right now, if they are affected by what you've said, our conversation, and they just don't know the how? What is the one first step that people can take to start exploring this?
If we're talking from a management perspective, if which is where we were just where we ended up, if we're talking from as a manager, if I'm managing people, then the very first step, the first thing you've got to do, in my view, is get yourself qualified to manage people. And that there's only two things that qualify one human being to manage another. The way that I train hundreds and hundreds of people how to become an extraordinary manager and guarantee the success of human resources, and then inspire them to extraordinary success, is first and foremost, hold their future in your hands. So if you just take the story about the parable of the jogger and the building a cathedral, the very first thing, even before qualifying yourself as a manager to manage people, would be to figure out what is a why that really matters in the industry, and what are you up to. If you're a department manager, what are we going to build for this company that will be exquisite? Who are we going to be in this organization as a department? If you're a company leader, then what do I do? What is this company going to be about? What is this division going to be about? What are we going to provide? What's the quality of something that we're bringing to market? How do we craft that quality? There has to be an exquisite something, like a value proposition that's being created, either for your department or for your business, that everybody can rally behind, and then a little bit of a vision of a culture that goes with it. In the talk that I'm going to give, we're going to talk a little bit about how to craft that. Awesome. So what does it take to create a 3 to 5 year vision of something that is truly exquisite, and what are the properties it needs to have, and how do you craft something like that? We're going to talk a little bit about that. But if you wanted to start now, start to have your attention on what might that purpose be? What might that exquisite thing be that I'm up to? What really is in my heart and spirit? What sings to me about this? It can include fiscal responsibility to the company. That's totally fine. But we want to go above and beyond what the fiscal responsibility is. What are we up to? What is it that is magnificent that'll make a difference? In the summit, I'll be talking about how to craft it. But for right now, start the creative thinking going, like, what's in my heart and spirit about this? What do I really intend? Then on the other side of it, to initially start to qualify myself to manage people, start to ask the questions of your people. What is it that they want from their career 3 to 5 years from now? You'll be surprised how many Fortune 50 company executives I talk to, and they talk about their directors, or this director that's no good, or that director that can't this. One of the first questions I'll ask is, well, what are we trying to develop that director to become? What do they want out of their career? They can never answer the question. They never can answer the question. And I tell them, then we don't have a lot of leverage for how to impact their behavior. If all we have to correct their behavior is, I have your paycheck, do as I say. Okay, I mean, that's better than nothing, but it's not a whole lot of leverage. How about we find out?
Uh-oh. I think we're having some technical issues.
What they want. Hear me?
Oh, yes. Are you back?
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I could always hear you, by the way. I just the video seemed to go dead.
Yeah.
But anyway, so those two things are a beginning. If you can craft something that is exquisite to be up to, where it's everyone can find themselves in a game-changing something, either in the department or the company, and then you can start to hold everyone's future in your hands honorably. That's underneath you. If a manager cannot hold the future of somebody underneath them honorably, they have no business managing that person.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Yes, hallelujah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And so I know you're incredibly busy, so I know you don't take too many clients, but people can find out more about you at www.zanzibarenterprises.com. That's on the banner right at the bottom. And Zanzibar is going to be, as you can tell, as all of our viewers and listeners can tell, whether you're joining in live or later, this is going to be an absolutely mind-blowing, phenomenal keynote that is going to give you so much insight about your exquisitely crafted purpose and your path to leadership, management, and just helping humanity uplift each other to this level of higher consciousness that we're all on the inside trying to get to, outside of all the outside divisions.
I believe that.
I do too, which is why I'm so grateful that you agreed to do this and you agreed to do this talk. Zanzibar, I can't thank you enough for giving me so much of your time to help our viewers and listeners get to know you and get to know the person behind the business consultant and expert. This was so illuminating, even to me, even after all of the conversations I've had with you. Every time I talk to you, you compel me to dig deeper into my own leadership style and learn and grow. And I think that is the best gift that you give to humanity, just being yourself. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I love it. And as always, it's great to be with you. Great to hear your voice. Great to be washed over with the spirit of what you're intending for the world, and get to shine a little bit of that light my direction and get to live inside it for a minute. It's great to be with you.
Oh, thank you so much. And so make sure you register for the C3EB Summit so you can catch all of Zanzibar, whether you want to call them Zanzibar Vermiglio or Vermiglio.
They both work.
They both work. But to catch Zanzibar's keynote about crafting exquisite purpose, make sure you register at www.c3eb.com. The conference is from August 26th through the 28th, so you definitely don't want to miss out. And thank you again, Zanzibar, and I will talk to you very soon.
All right. Thank you.
All right. And to all of my listeners, thank you for tuning in. Whether you're tuning in live or later, we hope you enjoyed this wonderful conversation. And don't hesitate to ask any questions via the comments, and we'll see you at the summit.